It is late evening. The city streets are already empty, with only occasional car lights breaking the silence. In a wealthy suburb, a place where houses are worth millions of dollars and residents sip expensive wines on their private terraces, strangers are noticed instantly. The asphalt glistens after a recent rain. Streetlights cast long shadows on the sidewalks, which seem deserted and just a bit eerie in this quiet. A black Chevrolet slowly drives along a row of luxurious houses. Behind the wheel is a black man wearing a black jacket. His face is calm, his gaze focused. He isn't looking for anyone, isn't calling out to anyone. He's simply driving straight ahead, but in places like this, even the mere presence of an outsider can arouse suspicion. Within minutes, flashing lights appear behind him. Red and blue beams tear through the darkness, drawing closer. The man immediately turns on his signal and slowly pulls over to the curb, carefully stopping the car. The door of the police Ford slams shut forcefully. Two officers quickly approach the car. One is tall, stocky, with a buzz cut and cold gray eyes. The other is younger, cocky, with an arrogant expression, hands on the wheel. The senior officer barks harshly as he nears the car. The man calmly places both hands on the wheel, fingers spread. "Good evening, officer. Is there a problem?" he asks evenly. The officer ignores the question. "What are you doing here?" he demands bluntly. "I'm going home," the man replies laconically. The younger cop rudely shines a flashlight into his face and then into the car, his gaze searching for anything suspicious. "Is anyone with you?" he asks, peering into the back seat. "No, I'm alone." "Step out of the car," the senior officer orders sharply. The man sighs, rolls the window all the way down, slowly opens the door, and steps out, keeping his hands visible. The officers immediately become more aggressive. One of them grabs his hands and twists them behind his back, handcuffing him, without explanation. "What's going on?" the man repeats, a little quieter but without fear. "There have been a few burglaries around here," the senior cop snaps, "and you fit the description perfectly." "And what description is that?" the man asks, raising an eyebrow. "Black male, dark clothing, out-of-state plates." The younger cop smirks. The man glances at his license plates. They're from a neighboring state, but the car is completely legal and clean. The officers begin searching the car without a warrant. They open the glove compartment, inspect the seats, look in the trunk. They shove items around carelessly, never once offering the man a clear explanation for the stop. "Where did you get this car?" the senior officer suddenly asks sharply, exchanging glances with his partner. "I bought it," the man replies evenly. "With what money?" "Where do you work?" "In a government agency." "A government agency?" the officer repeats mockingly. "You mean like welfare? Helping those who don't work?" The younger cop laughs, shoving the man in the shoulder casually. "Listen, man, you're acting real suspicious. Wouldn't be surprised if we find something interesting in your car. Drugs, maybe a gun." The man stays silent, staring straight ahead. He knows every word could be used against him. Every movement could trigger an even harsher reaction. The officers keep rummaging. A bag with papers falls out of the trunk. The younger cop roughly opens it and pulls out documents, not caring much about their content. "What's this?" he scoffs, flipping through some printouts. "Those are official documents," the man says evenly. "Official, huh?" The cop laughs again. "Sure." While the younger cop searches the bag, the senior grabs the man's shoulder and roughly pushes him toward the patrol car. "You think we're stupid? We've seen guys like you. You're either a dealer, or working for someone." The man does not resist. He endures silently. His gaze is calm, almost indifferent, as if he knows something the cops haven't yet realized. The younger officer leans toward his partner and whispers something into his ear. The senior nods, and for a moment, it seems like the situation is about to get even more dangerous. "We can find a bag of weed on you, buddy," the younger cop says quietly, exchanging glances with his partner. The man slowly raises his gaze and looks straight into the senior officer's eyes. There is no fear in his look, only deep, cold confidence. A moment of silence, tense as a stretched wire, and right at that moment, a black SUV with tinted windows appears on the road behind them. The black SUV that appeared on the horizon slowly approaches, but the officers pay no attention to it. They are fully focused on the man standing by the patrol car with handcuffs on his wrists. The senior cop, Officer Brenner, crosses his arms over his chest, his gaze cold and predatory. The younger one, Officer Stevens, shifts nervously from foot to foot, barely concealing his excitement. There's a particular gleam in his eyes, the kind often seen in those who enjoy having control over others. Brenner steps closer. Tell me the truth, damn it. What are you doing here? Who are you waiting for? The man remains silent. His face stays impassive. He does not react to the provocation, does not lower his eyes. His calm only irritates the officers more. You deaf or what? Brenner suddenly grabs him by the collar and yanks him forward. Almost simultaneously, Stevens approaches from the other side, and without restraint, punches the man hard in the stomach. The blow is precise and strong. The man inhales sharply, bending slightly forward, but does not fall. He does not even groan. You son of a bitch, Stevens hisses, sweeping his leg and knocking the man off balance. He drops to his knees, then to the ground. The handcuffs prevent him from breaking the fall. His chin slams painfully against the asphalt. Brenner approaches, and without ceremony, drives his knee into the man's back, pinning him to the ground. You're going to tell me who sent you here. Otherwise, I'll make sure you face serious charges. Got it. The man says nothing. His face presses against the cold, wet asphalt. There's a scrape on his chin, from which a thin trickle of blood runs down. He does not resist. He does not beg for mercy. He simply waits. Meanwhile, Stevens pulls a small bag, with green substance from his pocket. Look what we've got here, he says with a slow spreading grin. I think I'll find this in your glove compartment. Drugs serious offense, especially if we say you resisted arrest. Brenner grunts, keeping his knee on the man's back. He leans down and speaks quietly. You know what, buddy? We're being nice. We could say you attacked us, and no one would believe you. Not here. Not in this neighborhood. His words dissolve heavily into the night's silence. The camera lingers on the man's face. It is calm, even indifferent. No sign of fear, no trace of panic, only stubbornness, and some enigmatic confidence. Stevens starts rummaging in the patrol car's trunk. From there he pulls out another item, this time a small handgun. We can say he had an illegal weapon, and what's even more interesting, that this weapon was recently used in a homicide case, that would make you suspect number one. Brenner finally stands up and removes his knee from the man's back. He roughly hauls him to his feet, gripping him tightly to prevent any chance of escape. You're screwed, man. He whispers straight into his face. This is the end for you. As viewers by this moment, we clearly understand this is a classic story of police abuse. Painfully familiar. Most of us have already seen similar footage in the news. Unjustified stops, abuse of power, planted evidence. We feel the injustice. Anger rises. The officers have completely lost control. They are now acting not according to the law, but driven by their instincts and authority. At this stage the viewer is convinced the man is yet another victim of the system. No one will help him. Stevens places both the bag of marijuana and the gun on the hood of the patrol car. Then he turns back to the man. Okay buddy, he says, winking at Brenner. You didn't want to cooperate. We'll do this our way. Others will be here soon, and I'll make sure you spend the next few years in prison. If you're lucky, not for life. The senior cop lifts the radio. Central, this is Patrol 12. We have a suspect with narcotics and an illegal firearm, requesting backup. No response from the radio yet. Brenner turns his head and notices that the black SUV has already stopped nearby. The doors begin to open, but the cops are too busy with their works to pay any attention to it. The door of the black SUV opens smoothly. First, a broad-shouldered man in a dark suit, with no visible insignia, steps out. His movements are calm and precise. He closes the door and pauses, surveying the scene. Two more men follow him. Both are dressed similarly. Sharp suits, short haircuts, alert, cold gazes. They don't fidget or hurry. Their appearance immediately suggests they are not ordinary passersby. Brenner and Stevens are still absorbed in their staged setup. They don't notice the three strangers confidently walking toward them. Finally, Stevens glances sideways and freezes. His smile fades from his face. "Brenner," he says, hoarsely. The senior cop turns around, frowning, not understanding who these men are. The first man, clearly the leader, steps closer. His face is stone-like. Slowly, he pulls a leather wallet from his pocket and flips it open in front of the officers. Inside is an FBI agent badge. The photo shows a familiar face, the very same black man they had just beaten and humiliated. Agent Devin Mills. The man from the SUV says calmly, "We're conducting an internal investigation. You've just violated several federal laws." Stevens darts his eyes from the badge to the man they had just pinned to the asphalt. He freezes, his face goes pale. This wasn't just a suspicious guy. This was an undercover FBI agent. Brenner abruptly steps back, a deep frown creasing his face. "This is a mistake. We didn't know," he starts, his voice suddenly dry and hollow. Agent Mills, the man they had beaten, slowly rises from the ground. He doesn't even wipe the blood from his chin. He stands tall, looking directly into the eyes of both cops. "We've been observing you for several months," says one of the agents who had stayed by the SUV. His voice is calm, emotionless. "Internal Affairs received multiple complaints about your conduct. Illegal searches, extortion, planted evidence, racial profiling." The other agent walks over to the patrol car's hood, picks up the small bag, and the gun Stevens had just tried to plant, and places them into a clear evidence bag. "It's all on video. We recorded everything," the agent says. "You'd better put your weapons down and lie on the ground immediately." Brenner and Stevens freeze. They realize there's no point in resisting any longer. It's over. Brenner slowly places his gun on the ground and raises his hands. Stevens, ghostly pale, does the same. They are forced face down onto the asphalt and handcuffed. At that moment, the camera lingers again on Agent Mills's face. It is calm. No triumph, no vengeance, just a deep restrained weariness, the kind you see in someone who has waited far too long for this moment. For the viewer, this is a moment of catharsis. We realize, we were wrong to think this was just another story of a victim. This time, the victim was not powerless. He was far more formidable than we imagined. He wasn't just a man who happened to fall into the cops' hands. He was an agent who had risked himself for months to expose cops like these. But the scene doesn't end here. Another black car arrives. From it step officers in uniform, members of the Internal Affairs Division. They begin documenting the arrest of Brenner and Stevens. Mills walks over to the SUV, opens the door, and takes out a phone. "The targets have been neutralized," he says into the receiver. "We're handing the case over to the prosecutor's office." Finally, he turns back and casts a glance at the cops lying on the ground. He says nothing, but that look speaks more than any words ever could. Several months have passed. Sunlight filters through the tall windows of the old courthouse. The only sounds in the hall are the rustling of papers and the soft echo of footsteps. The camera slowly moves across the room. Long benches, dark wood, high ceilings. Everything radiates a solemnity and the weight of the law. On the defendant's bench are Brenner and Stevens. They are no longer the confident cops we saw in the first scene. Dressed in gray suits, clean-shaven, without weapons or badges. Now they are just ordinary defendants. Their eyes are downcast, their faces weary. Their lawyers bustle nearby, but it's clear things aren't looking good. On the witness stand is Agent Devin Mills. He sits straight, calm. He wears a simple suit, his face as focused as always. But now there's also a sense of duty fulfilled. The prosecutor, a young energetic woman, speaks confidently to the jury. The defendants, abusing their official position, systematically violated citizens' rights. They planted evidence, intimidated, and used violence without cause. Thanks to a joint operation by the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Internal Affairs Division, these crimes have been documented. We have video recordings, audio, and testimonies from the victims. The camera briefly cuts to the screen in the courtroom. It shows snippets from the recordings, hidden cameras capturing Brenner and Stevens stopping others, frisking them, beating them, planting drugs. But most importantly, the prosecutor continues. They chose their victims based on skin color. This is not just an abuse of power. This is systematic racial persecution. The courtroom falls silent. Brenner swallows. Stevens clenches his fists nervously. Next, other victims take the stand. A man in his 50s with gray hair, a young woman, a student. They all tell similar stories. Each one was stopped for no reason, humiliated, searched. The camera turns back to Mills. He doesn't look away. He listens to every testimony, nodding slightly. For him, this isn't just a case. It's a matter of honor. The last word goes to Mills. He approaches the podium. The room grows even quieter. I've been with the Bureau for over 15 years, he begins, and most of my time has been spent on organized crime cases. But do you know what's the scariest? The most dangerous enemy isn't the one hiding in the shadows. It's the one wearing a uniform. He pauses for a moment. We entrusted these people with the right to carry weapons and protect citizens. They betrayed that trust. They betrayed the idea of justice. His voice doesn't rise, but it's firm. The jurors have serious faces. The audience is silent. But I want everyone here to remember, he adds. This isn't a story about a war between the police and citizens. This is a story about how the system can correct itself, and how important it is to not stay silent when you see evil, even when it wears the same uniform as you. He turns and walks back to his seat. A heavy pause fills the room. Then the final scene. The judge, a dignified man with a gray beard, announces the verdict. Both defendants are found guilty on all counts: abuse of power, evidence tampering, violence, discrimination. The court sentences. He pauses. 15 years in prison for each. Stevens shifts uneasily in his seat. Brenner looks up at the ceiling, both shattered. The camera cuts back to Mills. His face remains impassive, but his eyes show a sense of relief. The final shots. He exits the courthouse into the sunlit yard. A woman and a small child greet him. The child runs to him, and he lifts them up in his arms. A smile finally appears on his face. Mills. This is not just a story about specific people. It's a story about the system, and how easily abuses become the norm, if they are not stopped. I don't believe in good or bad cops. I believe in right or wrong actions. Sometimes the system doesn't cleanse itself, and then someone has to step forward. Justice is not when the guilty are punished. Justice is when everyone knows if evil happens, someone will stop it. Black and white photos of historical figures who fought for human rights, Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, appear. Then, modern photos of protests, pickets, and courtrooms. Each of us is part of the system, and each of us has a choice: to close our eyes, or to speak the truth. Silence is consent. The truth always has a voice.